Hi. So I'm with Nick. We are at Motorbass Studio in Paris. Thomas is in New York and Branco is somewhere in Paris, maybe.
That's true. Correct, Chris.
Voilà, perfect.
That is correct, Chris.
So you can ask now your questions. We are ready to try to answer them. Okay, so first question. Major delay. C'est quoi votre synthé favori? What's your favorite keyboard, Deck?
No, but yeah, we have quite. It depends on the on the months of the year. Actually, I would say.
And right now?
Right now, well, we are rediscovering the CS80 that we haven't used for a very long time, and we just replugged it last month. So this is the one at the moment.
Yeah. Because CS80. If there's one, I would say CS80. Salut les gars, quelle boîte à rythme est utilisée sur l'Histomania? Également le son de guitare et gain sur le riff. The beat of l'Histomania question. What was which drum machine Deck you remember on l'Histomania?
It's more Thomas, I think.
Thomas did the beat on l'Histomania.
Yeah, no, I remember. It's a bunch of samples of our own drum kit, actually. Thomas, do you agree with me?
Yeah, we created. We had I saw a video of Stevie Wonder playing a Motif 8, and so I bought a Motif 8, which is not a great keyboard, but it's and then we created a special kit that we played MIDI drums on, but it was called the Kit de Luynes, which is the street in Paris. And it had the best of 707 drum tracks. I think there's a few DMX sounds. There's a bunch of sounds that we played around, but now I don't think we remember exactly which sound is which. And then Thomas Hedlund played a few things on top of those drums as well. So a nice mix.
Alors.
What are your favorite creative plugins?
We don't really use plugins for create now. Right now, when we are writing music, we are using Ableton Live. So this is the DAW we are sticking to during the creative process, and then we switch to Pro Tools for the more boring but more precise stuff. So during the creative part, we all have live connected, like a network of computers, and on each computer there's a palette of sounds and percussion and stuff we like. So we are ready to add a new idea. At every moment we are ready to add something to what's happening in the room. So I would say the creative part of the process is not based on the plugins, but more on the setup of all the keyboards sound we have collected through the years.
1901 was great. Will there be 1902? There's a 1902. I remember on the.
Yeah, there's a track that's called a demo that's called 1902.
It was written just after 1901, actually.
Oh. It might be on some kind of. Yeah, no, it's somewhere. We released it somehow. I don't remember.
Maybe.
The 1902 was also part of. Because after Wolfgang, we named the bankrupt Ludwig von Phoenix as something we shouldn't do. So that was the working title for a while, saying like we should move on from. That's why 1902 is not really. It's there somewhere, but it's not really existing.
New question, Chris?
We enjoyed some awesome champagne and baguette at this studio. Daniel Glass. Hi, Daniel. Yeah, we had good moments in this studio with friends.
Yeah, we have to talk about Motorbass a little bit because it's Philippe's creation. It's the crown jewel of the 18th arrondissement in Paris, and it's a place that we started working on Wolfgang there, and the studio was not built, and he finished building it while we were in the studio. So it's really part of the whole studio. It's not only part of the album, but it's part of our friendship with Philippe. That's why we're doing this today. And it's really a unique, a great place where Daniel came to visit us and friends came to listen to Wolfgang and Bankrupt and other records. And we always go back to it even for Identical, we went back and recorded voices there and vocals there.
And the fridge was filled with only champagne bottles.
Yes. And
like 36 bottles of champagne. That would.
There's still I checked. There's still the very good coffee. There's still the shakers to make good cocktails. The details are still here. Nothing changed. That's what we were saying.
Yeah, we just
detail is the same. Yeah.
Guys, Tony T wants to know, can you go more in details about your palettes? How do you decide on the sounds that you will be using in your projects? Palettes.
Decision is we follow our emotions, of course. What we want is to have a lot of colors, and to be able to mix them and create something unexpected. So we might have like a dozen of bass sounds we love. Some pads we collected, and it changes, it evolves. And it's like a painter, what you have on your palette maybe it's the most important thing that's going to decide what your album is going to sound like. But we don't try to anticipate and figure out what it will be. We just collect some pigments we think are beautiful, and then somehow they combine with each other.
I think it's maybe the only activity we do separately, because when we go in the studio, we're always doing everything together. It's very therapeutic and we all make music together, but creating the palette, we always, we all come in the studio with the things we've been working on with our little setup. So it's maybe the only thing we do on our own. That Branco, when he comes back from Rome, he has like a bunch of sounds. I collected a bunch of sounds. Dec has his sounds. Chris has his sounds, and we're like, we're bringing everything together.
That's the great thing about Ableton Live, is that you can have everything ready, and you just pick up a few things you collected, and somehow something starts to appear. And for us, this software changed a lot. I mean, it changed our workflow, and it helped us a lot to create things fast. In the studio together, we sit in the same room around the table, and we we create like dozens of songs every day. And most of them are really bad. But you know, statistically, after a few weeks, you have like 3, 4, 5, 10 ideas that are good. And that's what you need to for a record. Then we spend two years maybe trying to transform those little ideas into songs that sound like a record you would hear on the radio.
Non, c'est malin. Hein.
Salut les gars, petite question. On te demande, how do you process the recording of the acoustic guitars? Too Young, Love for Granted, Lost and Found, Like a Sunset Bourgeois. Do you have any secret for recording it? Chris? Deck?
Chris, Deck?
Yeah. I'm
the-
looking at deck.
Yeah,
We own a very few microphones, and but they are good ones. So we have a U67. We had for a long time we had a 47 FET, c'est ça, non? 47 FET top decks.
yeah, absolutely, yes. But you know, we're getting a bit old now, so we had the chance to buy this gear that now seems a bit hard to afford. But back then it was still okay. But you know,
It's true.
yeah, we were born in the 70s. Maybe people don't know
The
that, but
67, we bought it in Germany when we recorded our Sticky album. It's never been like that. Yeah. And we recorded in Berlin, and in the studio there was some guys that sold us their old 67 from a East German radio station. And so we have this 47 FET that was stolen, so we don't have it anymore. We have a few Shure, comment on appelle ça là? SM77, no, 57, sorry. So, and with that, we just, for the guitar, we take the mic and we put it as close as physically possible to the hole, the sound hole. And usually it works.
Also, Love for Granted and the songs in alphabetical have a specific sound because we built this little room, and we did the soundproofing ourselves, which we are not qualified to, and so the padding of the room was everywhere. There was not one square inch that was the wall. So it was the deadest sound. It was like a coffin. And so the sound was the result is this very dead, super dead sound, sometimes a little bassy, because it's not a perfect acoustic down, but it's unique. And that's the fun part of adding to recording with microphones, is to find ways to, record in different places and do. For this new album we're recording, we just bought a booth that looks like a telephone booth, and I think we'll record a bunch of things in there just because it's very, very dead.
We are very used to dry and dead sound. When we did our third record in Berlin, we had the option of 5 rooms, and we picked the room that was emulating the sound of the outside for radio, theater shows. So yeah, the engineer was like, you're crazy to use this for drum sound, but since Versailles we are used to try dead sound, because we didn't know, it was not the rule, it was just a mistake, but we are so used to it. We love it. We love this. Reminds us our childhood.
Steve Johnson is saying, have you guys seen the Get Back Beatles documentary? What is your take out on this? I think we need a whole special Zoom just for the Get Back documentary, because I think that's 80% of my conversations in the last 4 days have been about that documentary that we love, and that is maybe the greatest documentary I've ever seen. It's so deep and
yeah, we've been traumatized.
Yeah, it's really great. So more technical stuff. Who found the song by Faka used on Identical? Does it seem like you'll be playing with a lot of samples for the new record? Faka was found by when we recorded at La Gaieté Lyrique. The guy that's responsible for getting us there, Benoît Rousseau, would come once in a while and play us his favorite music. And he's responsible of the Loud and Proud Music Festival there. That's about the voguing culture, and he showed us this band, and we loved that band, and it was playing in the background, and we added things on it, and sometimes samples, they help you build something around it, then you take the sample away, which is very helpful, and we did it many times. Not just because sometimes you can't clear the rights, but just because sometimes you just you don't need the sample anymore. But Faka was impossible to take away, and we really loved the texture of it and the sound of it, so we kept it because it
Branco sampled it.
drive.
Ouais.
And Branco sampled it.
Like Fleur de Lis, because I see a question. Which one of you had the idea of sampling Fela Kuti in Fleur de Lis? It's Branco. No, c'est pas Branco.
Branco comes up with all the samples. We could say that's your specialty.
Whenever it's very simple. Whenever I hear a record when there's a separate drum beat, I just cut it and put it in the folder, And whenever we meet, I have this huge bank of, catalog of samples I collected, and usually I don't remember. So I just pick up a few of them. The only thing I write down is the tempo. So I have like hundreds maybe now, of 1,000 maybe, of samples that I collected, and usually I don't really care if it's good music or bad one, because even if it's like a Céline Dion, the demo, it's just a portion of a drum loop I can sample, I take it.
Branco, someone is asking if you ever sampled Monteverdi.
Yeah, of course, that's true. Actually, we did a soundtrack for Sofia, which is only a Monteverdi track that we slowed down like 1,000% with this fabulous algorithm. I forgot the name, of course, where you can slow down things like 3,000% or whatever. So the soundtrack is just one Monteverdi track that we slow down to the point of being unrecognizable. For a period of time, I only listen to slow down classical music. So you take like a piece of Mozart or Bach, and you slow it down, and it becomes like a mystical experience. My advice would be for everyone to do it as like a Zen Buddhist experience. So it's a good question. Monteverdi, we love. It's like the beginning of pop music, in Italy, Renaissance. It's actually you can take the chords of Monteverdi songs and Monteverdi music, and it could work as a pop song. Whereas, Bach or Mozart or Haydn, it's
Paul Stretch, exactly. Someone's saying Paul Stretch.
Yes, of course.
Matteo Krebs Fardin.
This guy should have a statue. The guy who did this pole stretch, because it's beautiful. And also one I would build a statue made of gold of Peter Jackson for doing the Get Back documentary. So yeah, thank you. Peter.
Do you find
One
Steve,
is
do you find Steve Reich an inspiration? Ouais, I still remember the day we discovered the Steve Reich. We were recording in Versailles. It was our third album at the end of and we were coming back by car from Versailles to Paris. And Julien Delfaux, our sound guy who did this album with us, he put the CD. Do you know this? And paf, Steve Reich. And since then, it changed a bit our direction. You know, it's a huge inspiration, a huge influence. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Also, the way on the liner notes of every Steve Reich album, there's always an explanation of the process, and the way he talks about it is so simple, and so egoless, and that too is a big inspiration. Trying to describe things as in the comment on dit ça?
Simple, yeah. It's like his music. It's very simple, but at the same time, it's so complex.
Yeah, with simple rules and simple operations, you can create something really beautiful. So a lot of time you see people who try to mystify you with complicated things, explanations. But usually it's just a simple twist, a simple combination, something really straightforward. Music for 18 musicians, that we, at what point we organized a little field trip with, we all went to Cologne to see music for 18 musicians.
Yeah.
And we had it was like a field trip, a school trip, I don't know. We were at a hotel near the train station. It was really, really cool. Steve Reich was at the mixing board. He was so cool. He's one of the coolest guys around.
People want to know about the vocal chain in Ableton Live software and the vocal chain in general. So when we were doing the low-key radio performances 4 years ago, we used a lot of the plugs that are in Ableton, that are the build-up ones. We use them a lot, like the freeze on the reverb, the simple delay, like everything at the fastest. We would use we'd use a bunch of things through a very cheap Chinese conference mic. But then recently we had the chance to meet Christophe, the singer who passed away recently, and he said buy an electro voice EV20 and buy a high-end microphone. So we bought these two microphones. I love the electro voice. We use it in the studio, and to record we use the U67. Sometimes we recorded with C12s, but it was mostly U67. I think there's one or two songs with the Telefunken 256. Is it the 256? I think the Telefunken
250.
And but the U67 is the one we love the most. We have Telefunken preamps and also Neve preamps sometimes, but right now the chain is It's all it's the U67 and Telefunken preamps.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of equipment, but we bought a few very good elements. So we always use the same ones, like the Telefunken V76 and the Neve, I don't remember, 33 something.
No, the
Any-
Neve is
anyway,
the,
the
Neve,
Neve-
the Neve we used well for most of our successful records is they are here actually. No, this is what I'm saying. they are the Philips at 1073s. He managed to get a bunch of 8 pieces of those 1073s, and yeah, most of the vocals were made with those ones.
Yeah, that would be an advice for the youngest generation. You should have a good preamp, not the best one, but a good one, and a good microphone. And with that, you can conquer the world. You know, we have friends in the movie business. We feel so lucky, you know, that we are able to make a platinum record in our bedroom. Just, you know, the 4 of us. I mean, we did. It's really a unique situation where even we don't have a technical background. And anyone can do it. You know, and that's great. If you do a movie, you need 50 technicians, insurance. You need a catering. You know, it's horrible. We are very lucky to be the first generation to be able to make a record in our bedroom. You know? And I remember when Daft Punk released their first record, we knew, you know, where they recorded it because it was in their bedroom, in Thomas's bedroom. There was a bed and, you know, a sampler, a compressor. And that's, you know, for us, it was like a eureka moment where we understood that you could release the best album of the year, you know, and record it, do it in your bedroom. That was a good feeling, and a good memory.
More specifically, what is your philosophy behind your lyric writing and songwriting? So to go back to get back the documentary, it's really well. I think it happens for a lot of people like that, even though the quality is not always as good. But when Paul finds Get Back, you can see that George is yawning, Ringo's daydreaming, and he's onto something, but he's not sure what it is. And when in the studio, when you find an idea, it's usually a combination of a few things that together they create something a little interesting. So it can be, it's not often real lyrics. Sometimes it's lyrics that don't make any sense. Sometimes it's a few words that make sense with a chord, but it's that combination, and then you circle around it, and you extend it to other things. But that was incredible to see Paul come with those songs that you know, and see the camera capture this moment of how boring it is for other people. You know, there's like technicians in the back, they don't care how. It's never like in those biopic movies where, you know, I remember the Queen when they played a tung 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 tung. What is that? It's never like this. It's always someone yawning and it's after a while you realize you're onto something. But it's the lyric is part of the is another instrument in that case.
We are not native speakers, so for us to write lyrics, like in a classic normal way, we would be any 12-year-old, would do something better than us, if he was born in the US or the UK. So we very soon we understood that we had to find a different angle. And actually, as kids, when we heard music that was English spoken, we didn't understand what it was talking about, but we captured some elements. And later, when we read the lyrics, we realized that what we had captured and imagined was always better than the real thing. So I think we are trying to use this memory, this feeling of, you see a few words, it's like a constellation, and you say this looks like a this looks like a Capricorn. You have to create like points where people can project their own emotions and their imagination. And what is crazy that it takes us a very long time to write the lyrics. Even if from the outside it doesn't make sense, for us it's a very precise process where no word that doesn't you feel instantly that the word isn't right. You don't know why. So we work a lot to find the right kind of n'importe quoi, comme on dit n'importe quoi.
Nonsense.
The nonsense is a very precise kind of nonsense, very elaborate. I could have said that in a few words, but it was.
Who in the band is playing the guitar solo in Funky Square Dance? It's a guy called Noé Efira. It was
not in the band.
Not in the band. He was at my school when I was 13. He was my friend, but we are very close. But we had we were beginning to play guitar. I was very bad technically, and he was very good. He was the guitar hero, and we had one guy we loved each other, was Prince. And apart from that, we had very different tastes, and but we were very close friends, and he was the guitar hero, ultimate. So when we wrote Funky Square Dance, we wanted at one point the ultimate guitar solo, and so we asked him, and he did that on 2 takes, I think. Really, so he lives now in Australia. We see him. Actually, he played the solo when we played where Adelaide, I think. Adelaide, yeah. So yeah, that was a good friend. Yeah, Noé.
As kids, we really hated the technical aspect of music. We thought it was shameful, to be able to shred, and so it's something we have to live with now because we are still very bad technically.
But yeah, it was our rule. We had many rules when we were teenagers, and one of them was never to play solos, even to go. I remember to go high notes were taboo almost. We were really we had to do simple chords, like it was a matter of style for us. It was
Yeah.
New question. What are your opinions on Tony Hoffer? We listened back a few days ago to Alphabetical by Tony Hoffer, and it sounded really good. I had forgotten because we don't listen that much to our own music. But I realized it. I think I didn't realize before, but I realized it was very, very beautifully crafted by him. So he's a great guy. And also the album he did with Air sounds really terrific. He did maybe one of the best drum sounds ever recorded. And which would be which song, guys?
How does it make you feel?
Yeah, this one. So when they managed to do this type of sound, we were really we were dreaming about this kind of sound. Suddenly, they managed to do it. So it was finished, you know, the race was won, and we had to find a new goal, it was a liberating moment in a way. But Tony Hoffer, it was very good. And we spent a few months in Los Angeles. It was our most professional experience. Everything we did has always been kind of semi-professional. But this not. Alphabetical is a gem.
So hi guys.
Thank you.
What's the start of your creative process? Do you decide of a key and build upon it? Or do you try it out in Ableton? How do you articulate verse to chorus to bridge, etc.? The start of a creative process is
it happens in the room. It happens. No one comes ever. I mean, we did that maybe a few times, but no one comes with an idea ever. I never write songs when I'm not with my 3 friends. I stopped doing that because we realized that for us, the most important thing was to create something that our brain couldn't anticipate. And the best way is to be, you know, with other guys and to, you know, you throw one, how it would happen. I take one like drum loop I have, and from there we start something, you know, anything, you know, we don't try to judge what we're doing. We know it's going to be very bad in 99% of the. So, but statistically, we know that less than 1% will be good, but you just need that. So we launch a beat, and then Deck has like a pad sound he loves, and Thomas is trying to figure out the chord changing we are trying to make, and voila, in 1 minute we have like embryonic, you say that, little idea of a song, and that's how we write songs.
And then we record it.
Then we record it. So yeah, that's very important.
Very important to record the first idea for us.
Yeah, whenever something sounds like music, not like something good, just music, you know, we press record, and we have this system that record everything into one centralized multi-track.
We used to have recorders. I've seen a question, that's why we don't use recorders anymore, but now we have a new system to record.
Now we record in high fidelity. So now we can use, you know, great things we did by accident, because everything is stored in So the thing is that, you know, after a few months, we have like hundreds of hours of music, and that Chris presses record. It's your role, Chris.
Yes. I agree. It's my role.
First, I want to thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
And then we a few weeks after, we listened to what we recorded, and we extract the few things that we think are a bit better. that are somehow have something, and that's when the pain starts, trying to transform this mess into some record. But the first ideas are really spontaneous. You know, we have streamlined the process to the point where we try to control as little as possible.
Ches Nunez wants to know what you each do when you get bored of your process. I'd say it's tricky because getting bored can mean that you're getting closer to finding the solution. So it's sometimes we just switch to another song and we come back to it later. But sometimes getting bored, for instance, I've noticed that after like 3 records, I've noticed that when we record and I'm onto something, I yawn. So I would have these.
No, it's true.
In 5 minutes, I would yawn like 50 times. And it was I realized that it's my brain rejecting the effort. And so it's kind of bypassing the brain, and you're just becoming a receptacle for something, you know, something that you have no idea what it is. And it's something deeper than what you can come up with that's talking. And that's the thing that's interesting. And so being bored can be being exhausted, being tired. Sometimes when it's too much, it's useless. But being bored can mean like you're getting close to it. You know, you're onto something.
What are your favorite underrated Phoenix sounds? Definitive breaks. I like this track. Branco, we listened to it 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was very
No.
very osé, comme on dit, osé.
You're listening to a lot of
Yeah.
Phoenix music at the moment.
Comment on dit osé?
Daring.
Very daring.
Daring, yeah. It was a very. This song has saxophone. It has like. We use a lot of things that were forbidden, you know, and we tried to transform the very bad smells into a delicate perfume. And so, yeah, when we started it, we were very vicious, and we wanted to use things that you weren't supposed to use, like saxophones, you know, those huge 80s reverbs that we hated. And so yeah, this challenge was this song is good.
Do you still own the MJ Michael Jackson Thriller studio console? Yes. Yes, we do.
Yes. We bought the console that was used on Thriller, which is crazy, and the story is long. It's too long, maybe for now. Let's Thomas sum it up in 20 seconds max.
Which
how we, you know, so yeah, we saw this console was on sale, and the thing is that it was sold by a guy who was really crazy, but like really crazy, and the ad looked like a scam, you know. But it looked so much like a scam, like someone who was pretending to own it, and he was selling it for like $2 million or whatever. That we had this moment of genius, the only moment of genius maybe of our life, where we thought this guy, it looks so much like a scam that maybe it's real, you know. So we began the investigation, and we found out he happened to have the real console, the Harrison console that Bruce Swedin used on Thriller, and we send engineers from Westlake Studio to the Orange County where this guy was living, and he checked, and he saw that there was some modification in the preamp, the equalization that had been done especially for Bruce Wedin, and which is a big hero of ours. And so yeah, we bought it from this guy for a very cheap amount, and it's in Paris now. It's so big that we used only a few.
La tranche.
Ouais. Une tranche, ouais. Une trench.
Channels.
A few trench, a few channels. We rehouse them and we have them always close to our hearts. It's a great.
Burbus says, I love the picture book you guys put out. Any other reading books you guys suggest for inspiration? I gave it to Branco because I loved it so much. The story of, it's called Please Kill Me. It's like stories of punk music, like mostly Iggy Pop, and it's incredibly funny and incredibly it's incredibly funny, and it's very detailed, and it's the best characters of it's also a miracle that all these people coexisted at the same time, and that would be my choice. Branco, do you have one?
Music. I read a lot of music books those days. I read the Geoff Emerick book about, and actually we have this huge, Beatles gear book that was written by Brian Kehoe, who we met a long time ago, and he did this huge book about the Beatles, and I might be one of the only person on earth that has read, the book actually. It's one of the best books ever. Also, there's a book about Serge Gainsbourg, which has been released recently, like 1 year ago, which is called the Gainsbourg Book. And it's just, I'm talking about technical books, about recording and music session. And so this book is great. I don't think a lot of people have read it, and it's in French, but for Serge Gainsbourg fans, it's amazing. And then I can answer with the book we all read, maybe at the same time. It's a book about the history of philosophy written by a French guy called Pierre Vesperini. And it's a book about the ancient Greek philosophers. And I think in the studio, we talk more about those kind of things than we talk about, what kind of reverb we're going to use, stuff. We talk about, Plato, how was his school, where was it located in Athens? Those kind of things, they take a lot of space in our conversations, more than technical stuff.
When we were with Philippe doing the recording process, I was with my recorder, and I was taping it, so to remember key moments of advices and things. And the 90% of the time we are not talking at all about music. We are talking about like this, like Plato, or it could be about black pepper, cocktails, or I don't know, any details like a movie. So yeah, I think we always been like this, yeah. And no, il y avait Philippe. Someone wanted to know advice from Philippe mixes. Vous avez vu la question?
Non.
many advice that we followed and many we didn't follow. Some of his concepts was he said it was always important to have the album title and the whole concept before you start a project, you know, at the beginning, so you can put a keyword, which is something I've seen in cinema too, that when you're in a job where they ask you to decide about plenty of stuff, you have to make many decisions throughout the day. It's really helpful when you have a few words, a title, or a few words to find which choice to make. So I don't know if it's, you know, I'm saying nonsense now, but if we think of clarity, like something clear, we want the album to be clear, then all of a sudden you're thinking of like what would be the stage. Well, it's not going to be see-through. What's going to be the sound for the reverb you choose. Every decision that you take all the way is implemented with these little guides, and that's always helpful. But Philippe would also, I think what I love about Philippe is he was like a hype man, the ultimate hype man. So he'd make you feel incredibly good about what you found, and he would almost point you in the right direction by telling you this sounds like a Prince song that would be made in the year 3000. You know, something that you wanted to achieve, but you're not there yet. But because he saw the idea that you wanted to do, or he saw something similar, he's guiding you that way. And he, you know, like every producer, also he was very unique, but he was also guiding you to where he wanted to go, which is what he's supposed to do. And he had knowledge of the entire song, the structure. In a second, he would know what would be the flow, what would be the pluses and the minuses, and he knew what a demo would be like when it's mixed. And I think he worshipped music, so he knew all the classics, so the love for recording music, you know, every reference, whether he was talking about the studios in like you know, every famous studio where it's recorded in Nassau, Bahamas, or if it's Sunset Sound in LA, or if it's Sound Factory, anything would be an idea that you can visualize and that you can hold on to, so it wasn't abstract to us. So he was always speaking the music language in the best way to guide us.
Yeah, he had lots of knowledge, like all the equipment, everything. And at the same time, he was like a kid, like using a toy for the first time. So, for example, the first mix we did with him, we had the right to touch. You can touch the faders. So we thought we couldn't before. We couldn't. With him, we could. Well, we don't care. So he was this mixture. That was the beauty of him, of like very old wise man, and at the same time a kid with innocence. So he had many concepts. I remember, like, he had so many concepts, but then let's destroy. It's a stupid idea. 1 hour after, like. You must always have in an album a slow song. And I was like, but in AC/DC they have no slow song. Yes, they have. There's always a blues. So yeah, I remember. C'est marrant ça. La boule, yeah, we had no, there were terms modern. I've seen, like, yeah, we had keywords like modern, like to be modern. La boule, we created many words between us, like as guides. Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about la boule, which is, I think, a word we created a long time ago. We started in the 90s, maybe at the period where the music was sounding the bad, the worst in all history of music. Maybe at the period, maybe 86, 90s. That's where we were, and we hated it. And what we hated, I think, is the fact that everything was, it was the early age of purely digital recording, and every transient, every sound was perfect, and very transparent. And when you just add those perfect transparent sound, and they didn't gel, they just, created this clean thing that we hated. And so we've been fighting for all those years was just to find a way to create this fusion, this magma of sound that you could achieve easily when you were distorting, a bit the preamps and a real console, and then it was the tape that was just gluing everything together. And what we call this glue, a bowl of sound, and we all of our life we've been like a sphere of sound, opposed as like layers of instruments that were like just on top of each other. And Philip was great for that because he was the king of like magma, Even sometimes we would say, it's too fluid, it's so thick. The glue is so thick that you couldn't hear, everything was melting. But he was a king of that. And those last year, maybe, I when I listen to the radio, I hear things that have this cohesive sound. I guess the technology of digital recordings has reached the point where now, when I hear, mainstream pop song, it sounds good a lot of times, which is crazy because when we were, kids, a mainstream song, it sounded like shit, that was the basic thing. Everything sounded really bad, but the radio was horrible. But nowadays, I think the new generation of people who are raised with a lot of plugins and YouTube tutorials, I guess people who are watching us now, I think you are kind of saving, the music industry, and because everything sounds better now. Whereas it's like, when during the Middle Age, when people had forgotten how to build, huge domes and huge architecture and beautiful statues. And somehow in the Renaissance, some people, they found the secret sauce, they found and that's what's happening, I think, those days. It's a message of hope I'm trying to share.
C4, I'm not sure I'm saying it right. You use a lot of high-end gear, but what do you love the most in every cheap sound? I think what we love the most is the combination of the two. It's what makes a contrast. So we always mix a bit of both. For the cheap sounds, anything's possible. Like it can really be. The conference mic I was using was like $4, and we recorded. At some point, I loved recording samples of Chris's guitar through the amp with the Chinese mic through the vocal chain, and I would play these in Ableton, and they sounded like the best, like a loop that really sounded like iconic. But I think we love the mix of both, like the best, yeah.
we use a lot of very small synthesizer. I saw someone mentioning it, like the PSS range of very small, like keyed synthesizers by Yamaha. I think we have a lot, not all of them, but a lot of them, like a few dozens maybe, and they have very cheap like technology. But when you use it, wisely, you can create great things. The PSS 290, I think, is our favorite.
The one
And
with
also
the
the sampling,
sampler. That's this one.
The sampling ones are really cool, which
Yeah.
VSS 200.
480.
The
We
480.
use it a lot, this one. But we also have a lot of very, very expensive synths. But for instance, I saw that, we talked about CS80, which is amazing, and but we use a lot of time, the software version by Arturia, which is really cool too. I remember the release date of this synth because we were just trying to figure out how we would play, the intro of Love Like a Sunset on stage, and suddenly they released the CS80 plugin, and we managed to recreate this extremely complex sound with a lot of portamento and filters and stuff in the Arturia version, which is really great. We use a lot of Arturia stuff. I would say 50% of our sounds come from this. Those days too, because we don't have our own studio, so we move from place to place. So a lot of time we don't have our big, the big synths that weigh far too much, hundreds of kilos. So we use this, and they are really cool. Arturia does a great job.
Alors, Ante, guitar question. Qu'est-ce qui vous a fait changer? Why do we use Marshall amps and now we use Fender Twin Reverb on tour? I think, Branco, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it was because Marshall, to have the crunch, we use les lampes. Comment on dit les lampes? Tubes, of course, tubes. And on tour, they were always broken. The sound was all the time different with every day, because it's tubes. And so with the Fender Twins, we use to have the crunch. We have our custom. We have special pedals that Cedric, our friend, is doing for us to have a special crunch. And so it's very practical. But so we know the sound is exactly it's not a tube, but it's exactly what we want. A tube on tour, it's too complex. You agree, Branco?
Also, those amps, c'est quoi d'ailleurs, je veux dire? The Fender Twin, they have a very powerful EQ. I mean, the EQ, when you turn the knob, you hear it,
Whereas we use two of them with a chorus, no?
We use two of them, and like with a chorus pedal to spread them out. So it sounds a bit like a combination of Fender Twin and a jazz
chorus.
A jazz chorus, yeah. We do our own kind special Fender version of the jazz chorus. And on stage it sounds really good because the sound is kind of enveloping you in stereo. I'm not sure it's really useful for the PA, but for us it's a good feeling.
Xanthus Souls wants to know, I'd like to hear about lyrical process, especially Funky Square Dance Part 3. The sound, I'm not sure if the sound of the Part 3 was made with what's called a vocalist. So it's the voice plus a vocal harmonizer that we use for that. As for the lyrics for that part, it was very unusual because Branco and Branco wrote the beginning and I wrote the second part. And it's totally, there's no collaboration other than gluing the two parts together. It was done really quickly one night. And
I remember you
Branco started the lyrics and then I wrote the second half, and then apart from the spelling moment where there's the KY, the QLSon part, that was something that he added, but that was unusual, just gluing two things together. Do you use any UAD gear? If yes, what plugin do you use most and why?
We don't use it. We used it on the last record, some elements, and we were just thinking about, because they have our favorite reverb, like EMT 250. Which is, very very complicated to buy. So we were thinking about maybe using it. They are doing a great job too. I would say they're one of the best companies. But for the moment, we don't. For the reverb, we love the reverb of live, Ableton Live. For some reason, we kind of fell in love with it, but we also use a lot of Altiverb with our own convolution. Well, we sampled a few spaces, and right now we have a really nice staircase, which is like from a very beautiful French building from like the 17th century, and we sampled the reverb, which is really, really nice. And I remember that on every Bob Dylan song from the 60s, the reverb was done with the staircase of the CBS building. So now when we found a good sounding room, we always try to sample the impulse, to record for our own library of reverbs, natural reverbs.
Yeah. In our new studio, the reverb in the stairs is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
C'est vrai.
Other question? Altiverb, yes.
How do you decide the tempo of your songs? Do you decide it when you match with the lyrics? I feel like the tempo and the tonality are linked together. Sometimes if you go faster, you have to go higher. So I think we choose, the tempo comes when we write the songs, but then we try to think, is this the best key for the song? So I think we adjust the key first, but usually the tempo doesn't really change unless changing the key means speeding it up a little bit. Or then at the very end of recording, sometimes we do like to pitch the whole song, whether it's even when it's being done on a quarter inch. So sometimes we speed it up like 1%, or that's what Philippe would do too. It just has a nice, when you go on a tape recorder, it has a nice glue to everything, and it's probably a nightmare for classically trained musicians that have perfect pitch, because for them it's like perfectly off.
But
it has a nice effect.
I heard the multi-track of Billie Jean, and it's recorded slower than you listen to it. It's like 440 hertz, and then it's sped up actually, like a few percentage points. No, not a few percent. I mean, a few points of tempo, like 2 points. And when you speed things up, you know, everything sounds tighter, of course, because, you know, suddenly, you know, the space between it's reduced. The human mistakes are reduced. And also everything, the format of every instrument is a bit, you know, weird. And I think Michael Jackson was looking for this texture of something that was not really human. So yeah, the trick of very speeding tracks, it's a very old trick, because they've been using it forever, but it's very powerful. I read that ABBA was doing it too, and it's hard to beat ABBA and Michael Jackson, and also the Beatles when they combine two songs, you know, in two versions of the same song in a different key, just by speeding one up and slowing one down. They managed to mix 2 takes of Strawberry Fields, I think it was. And that kind of thing, I remember watching a documentary. We all the 4 of us, we saw it when we were kids on TV, on French TV, about Sgt. Pepper. And I think it changed our life, because the day after we knew what we wanted to do. We bought a 4-track recorder on cassette. And that's how it all started, you know. Because we lived in Versailles, where you couldn't really play gigs, you know. It wasn't part of the culture. We weren't in London or in New York or whatever. We were in Versailles, where you can sing, you know, in a church as a choir, you know, like an enfant de chœur, choir boy. But there's no, you know, venues for rock and roll or whatever. So when we understood that we could spend our lives recording music in our basement with tape recorders, that's what we wanted to do. It was a key moment of our lives.
So guys, I know this is the last question.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. It has to be the last, unfortunately. So
wait, before the last question, I think, because I know there's people that are coming here for details about technical stuff, but there were a lot of questions about, like, when's the new album? When are you playing for VR22? Are you, like, a lot of we were working on finishing our album, and we are happy with it, but it's not done yet. But we will tour and hopefully play new songs pretty soon, and we'll play. We have shows. There's already Primavera, and around that time we'll play shows, and then there'll be more touring with more new songs. And but we're finishing the album now, and we thank you for your patience, and we hope we'll make you proud. And that's it. Last question. Chris, you pick the last question.
maybe you give us name of a song and we explain how we did it, the recording process, the songwriting process. No? Bonne idée ça ou pas? We pick one song, you write one song, and we tell you how we wrote the song and how we recorded it, maybe. The process, no?
Standard explose.
Voilà, alors. No.
We should do that?
No, people, no?
Ouais.
But no song is coming.
Yeah, we have to wait a bit.
There's a delay.
There's a delay.
It's gonna be
So Dek, I have a question for Dek. Dek,
Yes.
how would you record your bass?
Tutti Frutti came first. Tutti Frutti came first.
Tutti
And it's
Frutti.
Lasso, Bourgeois, Telefono, Armistice, Tutti Frutti.
No, Lasso. Let's say Lasso because we are at the place exactly where you found.
Recorded Lasso. Yes.
At this place, there was the keyboard of Thomas. C'était quoi le? With a drum. He had
the beat is a combo of a 3 and 2. So it's the hi-hat, tom, high tom, low tom. So hi-hat. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then on these it does kick and snare. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And so it creates like a ritournelle, like a never-ending kind of feel that the beat is always shifting, which was really fun. And we played with it. And then there was also a sound of a roll on the snare drum, which was like kind of keeping it alive. And then Chris?
Yeah, no, that was the beginning. Yeah, the beat, the pattern was the starting point at this place exactly. We were very excited about this beat, and it came very fast. It was the.
We had a different verse back then.
Ah ouais? Non,
Yeah.
ça c'était Armistice, non?
No.
Okay.
Also Armistice, but.
No,
so
we had the chorus first, yeah.
We had the chorus, yes.
So the chorus came pretty fast, and then Deck found the bass, the intro, I remember. Tung, 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 tung. This was a key moment to find the verse, because the first verse is different than the second verse, the chords. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Weird, but.
That was the process. So beat first, then chorus, then bass. And après, and you realize, no, but that's it. Huh? It was pretty fast, this one. Sometimes songs it takes 2 years, more than 2 years. Like Love Like a Sunset, or I don't know, like Tutti Frutti was very long, for example.
Oh.
Oh la la.
Oh la 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 la.
And sometimes it's very, very fast. Lasso was kind of fast.
Yes.
It's more for us. We feel more strangers of Lasso than Tutti Frutti. We feel, no?
Yes. Tutti Frutti.
One thing about us is that I think we are not precious at all about the songs. You know, before they are released, we can take them apart, open them, destroy it. You know, 1 month before it's finished, we could change the chords, just keep the melody. We are ready to destroy it, to explode it at any moment. We know that it can change totally, which is great, but also very stressful, because sometimes one of us, like for instance, I would fall in love with a part, and I'm always anxious that the rest of the guys will take it apart, you know. And so it's this combination of knowing that anything can happen, and also wanted for something to remain the same. But yeah, we are very violent with the songs. So there's no ego, there's nothing. We are just ready to kill any part, any song. You know, we can replace something we worked on for hours, you know. We can scratch, you know, whole symphonic orchestra at the last moment. But I think it's a good strategy, because a lot of time we come up with things that are kind of average, and through trial and error, and you have to be open to magic, and just changing the chord at the last moment. A lot of times it helped us create our best songs. Our best songs, they were never, you know, never like they were first supposed to be. There's always be like a revolution at some point that turned it into something that was greater than what we were capable of.
Bravo, Laurent.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Nice to see you guys. Long live to Motorbass. That's all I have to
Yeah,
say.
that's it's the best studio in the world, and the spirit of Philippe is still alive there, and the equipment is incredible. The people working there are the best. We have so many memories. When we worked there, it was not finished, so it was like it was very messy, very unhealthy. But now it's it's beautiful. Look at this.
You should come here.
Yeah.
Bisous, bisous. Hein? Bye bye.
Thank you.
Salut les cocos. À demain. Ciao. Bye.
À demain.